Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rulla Alani and today I have something different for you guys. So I'm going to be sharing 10 jobs I had before becoming an entrepreneur. So a lot of people probably would not assume that I've had 10 jobs, but I started working when I was maybe 12, maybe 11, like before I could even legally get a job. I was trying to make money. I've just been someone who likes to be productive. I'm not someone who's just always going out, always wasting time, always hanging out with friends. And I remember being like a 12-year-old and my friends would be like, let's go bowling, let's go to the mall. And I would be like, I'm working. So a lot of them would actually come and like hang out with me while I was doing that. But my first job, which I feel like is a lot of females' first job, was a babysitter slash nanny. So my neighbor's grandchild was 4 years old at the time, maybe even 3. So I was literally there while she was potty training. I helped feed her. I would take her to the park. We would do some like homework and critical thinking stuff. And I basically just took care of her. I even remember having to like get her in the bath, put her to sleep, which was difficult because as soon as I thought she was asleep, she would be like running down the stairs. So that job definitely taught me so much. It definitely built my patience. It helped form my love of children. And if you guys don't know, I absolutely love kids. I mean, I work in education now, so it's clear that that was kind of ignited in me from a young age. So, you know, just watching her develop and grow was such a huge part of my childhood. I mean, at the time, I wasn't even a teenager yet, and I was helping her thrive. So that was one of my first jobs. It was also one of the most difficult jobs emotionally and mentally, obviously, when I'm not even a teenager and I'm having to look after a young kid. That was no easy feat. And the best part about it all is guess how much I was getting paid per hour. You guys probably would not believe this at all. And I remember at the time like being like, oh my God, like I'm making so much money. And you guys, comment below what you guys think I used to get paid for that, because it's insane. Like, I can't believe that I was able to save a good amount of money from doing that. That just goes to show how many hours I put in. I mean, I remember babysitting her for 8 hours, maybe even 12 hours. And the whole reason why I was babysitting her so much was that her grandmother, which was her caregiver, actually was a nurse, but she was like one of those nurses who gets called in. So we would all be at the house, you know, and then all of a sudden she would get called out, so I would be the one taking care of her. So it's not like I was by myself this whole time doing all these things. I mean, her grandmother would be in and out helping me, but there were times where it would be like 6-8 hours where I'm just left alone with this like baby basically, and I'm helping potty train her and get her ready for bed and all those things. So that was definitely like a job that really, I feel like, prepared me for the real world, because it was a job where I was underpaid, but it really formed my character, and I really was a hard worker. I wanted always to be the best at what I was doing, and it formed my love of children. So I think that that was a really important first job, and it really paved the way for where I am now. So my next job after that was pretty basic. I was a cashier at Wild Rivers Water Park. And what it is it's basically a water park. And I was a cashier, so I remember you would be set to different stations. So you could be at the lunch station, you could be at one of the dessert booths, you could also be in the gift shop, or you could be out in the ticket booths. Like, you could be in the parking lot or in the front where you're like, you know, taking people's money and giving them a ticket for the park. So that was the first official job that I had. That was like, I wasn't actually an employee and I was getting like a W-9 form and all that stuff. They were so extremely strict, you guys. You had to have like this particular type of socks. Like, they had to be high cut white, I don't know, like you couldn't have any colored socks. They couldn't be gray, they couldn't be blue, and if they were, they would literally send you home. Not only that, but you could not have your nails done whatsoever, which I mean, nowadays I never really paint my nails, but when I was younger, you know, when you're a teenager, you like getting your nails done. They had very strict rules about piercings, so I had to put a Band-Aid over my nose piercing, which was so weird because then all the different people at the park would ask me like, oh, what happened to your nose? And I would have to explain, oh no, it's my piercing, but I have to cover it when I'm at work. So it was a lot. Like, I know if you had a tattoo, you would have to completely cover it. Like, I think you had to wear a long sleeve or like cover it with makeup. I don't know. They were so strict. But anyways, that was just a job that I had during the summers, and I worked there, I believe, for 2 summers. So the first summer I was like rotating among all the different booths. And the second summer, I was actually promoted to work at the gift shop, which was a lot nicer because you were in air conditioning, and you know, people are a lot more friendly at the gift shop because they're coming to like purchase souvenirs. Whereas when it's literally lunch hour and the line is like 100 people and you are getting like orders at the yin yang, that was definitely stressful. So that job definitely was a lot more hands-on. I was having to, you know, deal with people. I was having to get food ready. At the end of the day, I had to balance and cash out my register. So that was my first job that kind of dealt with like money, and I was actually an employee at an established business. So my third job, I was a hostess slash waitress at a sushi restaurant. This was not a very professional place. I had been hired as a hostess, but if they were low on staff, man, I would be a waitress, I would be like a busboy, I would be all the above. Like, it was one of those places where you apply and you apply for a certain position, but the next thing you know, you're doing all of the roles. So that job was very fast paced. I remember I had to do so many things. I was on the phone, I was taking to-go orders, I was making reservations, I was seating people at their tables, I was like dealing with the little computer they had where I had to assign waiters to each table. And then other times I was a waitress and I was having to also balance at the end of the night and add up all the tips, and sometimes even help the busboys like take the plates back and forth. So that was one of those jobs where you were kind of doing it all. I wasn't there very long because the place actually ended up shutting down, which was unfortunate. But I will say we all got like free lunch and free food, and oh my god, they made some amazing sushi rolls. So I think that's like when my love of sushi was first formed, was at that job. Okay, so my next job, this is job number 4, was in college. So as soon as I started college, they had like a job fair the first week, and I tried applying to like every single place on campus. Funny story is, as a Plan C resort, I applied to be a driver. So the nice thing though was the driver was actually the highest paid one, obviously because no one really wanted to be a driver. And it was for a company called Lion Express. So it was run by the school, it was run by the students, and basically it was a free transportation service that took students around the city. So we only had certain drop-off spots. It wasn't like Uber where you could just go anywhere, but we went to quite a lot of places. We went to the airport, we went to Venice Beach, we went to Santa Monica Beach, we went to like, I don't know, this shopping plaza nearby, and a few other places that I can't think of right now. So lo and behold, I ended up getting the driver job out of all the other jobs, but there were a few perks. So the driver job was cool because anyone who was employed by the school was working under work study. It basically meant that you were capped at a certain number of hours, and once you met that amount of hours, you basically couldn't work there anymore. It was their way of making sure that students were, you know, taking time for their studies, and they were not just working so many hours that they weren't able to handle their school load. So what was cool about the driver position is they didn't have a cap amount, right? Because they just needed drivers. So I was able to work so many hours there. I mean, I remember taking everyone's shift because it was one of those jobs where, yeah, it was annoying having to drive people, but it was pretty cool because I got to meet people, right? Like, obviously, when you're in the car, you talk to people. I actually met my, like, future roommates that way. And not only that, but I got acquainted with the city. Plus, I just like to drive, so it's not like it was much out of my comfort zone. And the other cool thing was that we were on an hour by hour schedule. But if nobody booked that hour, then you were basically free to do homework or, you know, go to the coffee shop anywhere on campus as long as you were back to check in for the next hour. So that was a really chill job because a lot of times, like, we wouldn't get calls, so I would just be getting paid sitting in the office, you know, doing my homework. And also, if the last hour nobody booked, you'd get to go home early and still get paid. So that was kind of cool. I remember there was also another position for the same company, a dispatcher, which was basically just the person who answered the phone and, you know, wrote down the schedule for the driver, but they got paid less. So I remember I didn't apply for that position because I was like, I'd rather be like out and about talking to people in real life, you know, getting paid a better salary than doing the dispatcher work. So that was honestly an amazing job. Like, I loved being a driver. I thought it was so fun, and it was one of those things where, like, initially I was like so hesitant and kind of annoyed about it, but it ended up being one of the best experiences of my whole college career. So that was great. So the first summer, going into sophomore year, I really wanted to stay in LA. So I was like, I need to either get a job or an internship. So I was applying to different internships and different things, and I finally found one that resonated, and it was at the Audubon Center in Debs Park. This is in like North LA, I believe, kind of by the Dodgers Stadium. So I was accepted as a summer intern there, and it was super cool because it was part of the college, so it was a college program. So me and someone else got sent to Audubon Center. Other people got sent to like the Aquarium of the Pacific or like a conservatory. So we were all in different locations, but we would be paired up. And the other awesome thing was we got free housing in this like huge house that was located right outside of campus. And we got to stay there for the summer. So it was really cool. It was rent-free, and I got like my first taste of actually living alone, because obviously up until then I had only lived in dorms, which that doesn't really give you much of the real adult experience. So I got to go grocery shopping and cook and decorate my room, and me and the other girl who were doing the internship in the same spot would go and carpool there together. And that was an amazing internship. That was my first teaching job. I had done like tutoring back when I was in high school. I didn't include that on this list because it wasn't like a full-time job. It was just here and there. But this was my first actual teaching experience. And the cool thing was it was out in nature. So all the lessons, all the different things were done outside. You could hear the birds, and it was at a beautiful location. I mean, look it up if you can. It is just a gorgeous place. There was snakes that we got to hold, and there was like a cool little lake or pond that we would hike to. And it was all about nature and science, and me and the other interns would be in charge of creating the lesson plan. So we really got our free will to create worksheets and to create like the curriculum for the students. So that was an absolute blast, and that was an amazing internship. So the following year, sophomore year, I actually was promoted from a driver to a supervisor. So I was still working at Lion Express, but now I had a new role. And as supervisor, it was so awesome. Okay, all I had to do was fill the gas tanks up for all the vans, and I would do inspections where I would just, you know, after each night, I would go and kind of do a run around the car, make sure there weren't any scratches or dents. And that was about it. I mean, I did have to cover, like, let's say a driver or a dispatcher didn't show up, I would just have to cover for them. But besides that, it was such a chill job. I mean, I spent most of the time just doing homework, hanging out in the office. My friends would come visit me. And it was just a step up from being a driver because, I mean, I still had the responsibilities of covering for people or, you know, filling the gas tanks up. But I wasn't out like driving all day long and going to LAX because we know how much of a pain that was. So being a supervisor was awesome, and I did that actually throughout college. So I did that sophomore year, junior year, and senior year. During, I believe, junior or senior year, I was given the opportunity to start private tutoring. Now, I had already done tutoring in like a casual setting when I was in high school, but now it was different because my friend had been a tutor and she was now graduating and she referred me. So the opportunity kind of fell in my lap. So I started tutoring. I would drive over and meet this girl at her school or sometimes her parents' house, and we would work on math. And then next thing you know, her parents told another classmate, so I started tutoring him. Next thing you know, I was tutoring 2 students and I was a supervisor at my college. So I was basically working 2 jobs while doing a full-time load at college as well as doing research. So a lot of people kind of think that all of a sudden I just became an entrepreneur and I didn't have any previous work experience or I hadn't really struggled at all. And to be honest, like, that is the furthest from the truth. I was working since I was 11, since I was 12. Like, I've literally helped change diapers and potty trained, and I've done internships, and I've worked 2-3 jobs at once. I mean, it kind of reminds me of that quote when people think success happens overnight, but really it is day in and day out and habits formed from a young age and a lot of work that compounds to what it is today. Like, I remember by the time that I had graduated high school, I had a pretty nice cushion of savings because I had already worked 3-4 jobs, whereas a lot of my peers had never worked a day in their lives. So I mean, I'm not saying this to boast. I definitely had my parents' support financially, and I mean, without them, I wouldn't have even been able to attend the private college that I did. But I was not just someone who took that for granted. Like, I worked for every single dollar that I spent besides college. Like, college was covered through grants, scholarships, and the help of my parents. But beyond that, I mean, I was paying for groceries, my gas, shopping, going out, like all of those things were covered by me. That definitely taught me a lot. And once again, that teaching came about with the private tutoring. That was such a joy for me to be able to help students in the community. And it's just amazing how the opportunity kind of came out of thin air and it ended up blossoming into what it would later become. So that was my 7th job. My 8th job, believe it or not, drum roll please, let's see if anyone can guess in the comments what my 8th job was, because you would be surprised. Maybe you won't be that surprised because I was the driver before. Hint, hint. So I actually worked for Uber. It was not very long at all. I did it for one of the summers. I think it was summer leading into senior year. Yeah, I think one of those things, because obviously during the summers I wouldn't have my Lion Express job because that was only when the school year was going and tutoring slowed down. So I just picked up Uber and I did that on the weekends. I would do it. I would basically just turn on Uber while I was at home, and when I got called, I'd go out to do it. Do not recommend, especially if it's like late at night, or I mean, even a lot of people day drink. So I remember getting some pretty wild passengers and just some bad experiences with that. There were times where I didn't feel safe, and I remember at the time I didn't even carry like pepper spray with me. So don't recommend that. I mean, if you are doing Uber, just make sure to do it when the sun's still out. If you're a girl, if you're a woman, then make sure to have pepper spray with you and just tell someone where you're at all times. I mean, my mom and my sister and I all shared our location, so I always felt safe, but there were times when I legit felt scared doing Uber. So it was great while it lasted. It was just kind of easy to do, and it was something that I could just kind of randomly go to work, make some money, and come home. But it's not something that I recommend for everyone per se. So my 9th job is when I was still pursuing a pre-med track. So I had graduated college, and at this time I was pretty certain that I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to become a dermatologist, actually. And I had applied to different, doctor's offices, and I got an opportunity to work at an ophthalmologist office as an optometric technician. So this job was one of the hardest jobs I've ever done. I mean, between this and being a babysitter nanny, because let me tell you, babysitters are underrated. They do a lot of work, especially if the kid is under 5. It is strenuous. But this job tested me emotionally like no other. This optometric technician job, I worked long hours. I dealt with, dying patients. It was very depressing, and I'm one of those people, like, I'm an empath and I absorb all of that into me. So I remember I would be like, I need to go to the bathroom, and I would just go and cry in there, and I just knew it wasn't right for me. Don't get me wrong, like, I loved what I did and I loved connecting with people, and it was like awesome to work in a medical environment, but it also just took a toll on my mental health, and thankfully I was able to get out of that job. But I just want to read you guys some of the things that I did there, because holy crap, I believe that medical assistants are completely underpaid. They basically do everything that a doctor does besides the injection or the surgery. We would do everything. So I'm just going to read you some of the things we did. Performed preliminary eye exam, took ocular measurements, obtained patient medical history, thoroughly explained procedures and injections, reviewed waivers, prepared medications, cleaned optometric instruments, assembled room based on doctor needs, worked closely with 3 different ophthalmologists at 3 different locations, utilized the optical coherence tomography machine, also known as the OCT machine, to take digital images of retinas, and provided excellent customer service on high demand days when over 100 patients were seen. Reading that right now, let me tell you, I don't miss it one bit. So it was a good experience while it lasted. I only did it for 1 summer, and then I moved on with my life, and I'm so happy that I did. The next job that I had was actually as a tutor. Once again, this time I was an independent contractor, so I worked for a tutoring company, and they would send me different students, and I would basically agree and accept all of them. So I was running around the entire county serving students. I remember I had almost 20 students at one point, and I would be driving from Newport Beach to San Clemente to Irvine to Trabuco Canyon, back to Mission Viejo. I was all over, and I mean, I worked my butt off, but I loved it. And I was able to figure out how I could improve the education system, how I could make the process better for parents, better for the students, all of those things. During this time is when I decided that I was going to be an entrepreneur, and that my experience being a babysitter, being a nanny, being a private tutor, being, a part of that educational summer internship was all preparing me for my business, Way to Grade A. And I ended up forming that in 2018, and since then that has been my baby, my business. And it is a private tutoring service for students all across Orange County. We also do some online tutoring for, students all over the US, and it brings me so much joy. It is a huge passion of mine, and I am just so blessed and grateful and thankful to do what I love. So a lot of people say you really can't always do what you love. You need to do what you gotta do. But the truth is, for me, I was blessed to be able to do what I love. And thank God I now have the freedom and the flexibility to create my own hours. And I mean, obviously I am still on a schedule. I'm still seeing students and clients myself. I do have tutors that work with me, but I'm still out there. I'm still tutoring. I'm still teaching. It's something that I love to do. I love seeing the impact that I can make on students. And it honestly like warms my heart. Like I have students who went from straight C's, who went from failing, who went from learning disabilities and hindrances to excelling, to entering honors classes and to getting into their dream schools. And so it's just so fulfilling to be able to be alongside them and to mentor them. And that's a huge part of what we do. So we not only teach students and tutor them, but we mentor them. We also provide them with online planners, which is kind of that innovative twist that I came up with when I was analyzing what was really lacking with the other companies. There was no really set planner. I mean, you could purchase like an additional physical planner, but nowadays all the students are online. So I came up with this idea for an online planner and we implemented that. So long story short, that's how I got to where I am today. I still have a long ways to go before I feel like I've achieved what I want to achieve, but what I've learned is that success is not a destination. It is truly the journey and the steps that you took to get there. Like looking back now, when they say success leaves clues, it is so true. Like I remember being an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old and wondering like, why am I working while everyone else is playing? And later on when I, was kind of struggling between should I go to medical school, should I not, what's my true passion? And I kept getting pulled back to teach and to empower the youth. And I knew that that was my calling and I listened to it. And I know a lot of people would maybe get insights, but they don't follow them. They don't listen to them. They think that they have to go according to the plan. They have to follow whatever it is that they wanted to do 5-10 years ago, even though their desires and their interests have changed. I'm honestly so lucky that I listened to my heart and that I had the proper support to start my business. I actually started my business with my mother. She was so supportive of my vision. She was there with me every step of the way. Like I will literally get emotional right now, but she is the co-founder of the business. And although she is currently stepped down, she is now focusing on her own business, which I'm so proud of her. And you guys should go check out her business. She actually has an Amazon FBA store. My whole point is that I was lucky. I can't just say that this was all me. I had the support from my parents, from my friends, from my loved ones. Everyone was cheering me on, and thank God that I am where I am today. I do consider myself an entrepreneur. I know people throw that word around, but I own a business. I have a YouTube. I also have a blog where I share my poetry and I write different posts there. And not only that, but I am an investor and a trader. So I am so lucky to be able to do what I love every single day and to have the opportunity to go travel and do amazing things. Sometimes I literally have to pinch myself because it all feels like a dream. I'm not even kidding you. So anyways, I don't want this to get emotional. I'm already over here like about to cry, but I just want to let you guys know that whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it. Just go in there head first. Like, don't lose sight of your goal. You might think right now, what am I doing? You guys, I was a driver. I was a driver for 1 whole year, and then I drove for Uber, and then I was just working on campus. So like, I've worked a lot of random jobs, but it all got me to where I am today. And sometimes I did jobs that I didn't really want to do. But guess what? That was able to fund my savings, and that was then able to fund my investments. And all of those steps got me to where I am now, which is just a small inch of where I plan to go. So I'm really proud of myself and all of my growth. I'm so thankful to you guys for watching this video. I know it's been a long one and I have been chatting your ears off, but that is it for today. So follow your dreams, success leaves clues. Always, always just listen to your true calling, because that is where you're gonna shine, right? When we actually do something that we're passionate about, we are gonna be the best at it because we actually care about it and we actually want to be there and we want to be engaged in those things. So that's my story for today. I hope that this helped you guys out in any way, or at least it was entertaining. Please give me a thumbs up, comment down below, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you all very, very soon. Bye.